Hey guys, this is Andrew speaking, and today I thought I'd show you a first look at my city builder. This is a project I started a couple weeks ago, kind of on the side, and I've been really excited about it. I started it because I was really interested in procedural generation. Procedural generation is what's used to make games like Minecraft or No Man's Sky, where the worlds are just so big that there's no way they could be created manually. So basically, the designers create a set of rules for the computer to follow, and they say you can do everything randomly as long as, let's say, like trees can only be made on dirt or things like that. So I thought I'd apply that to building a city and kind of take it further and further. So types of things generated here. We have roads or paths, and we have buildings. The algorithm actually has a seed object for both. We have one block for the roads and one block for the buildings. And if we let the building one do its own thing, it'll just generate a bunch of buildings. So that's one thing I kind of made, first of all, that you can tweak, is just how big these things are going to be. So here, for example, we see that that's a lot more manageable. That's a lot smaller. And the way it works pretty much is, I call it a decay rate because it kind of works like Half-Life. So this block here is actually, from it, it's generating new blocks to the side that are kind of springing out. And every time a new block gets generated, that one's going to generate new blocks. So it works recursively, and with every iteration, the probability of it creating a new block goes down slightly. And the roads work the same way, except that the roads, have to form intersections. They have to form fairly straight paths. So actually, what this algorithm is doing, it works similarly to the buildings, except that it'll generate, like here we can see this is the seed, and it'll generate around it like, a block here, a block here, a block here maybe, and then it fills in the spaces. And so then whatever roadblock is here, would generate a block here, and I guess that's it. And then this one would generate a block here, a block here, and so on and so forth until it dies out. We can have it be completely rigid, so that it's on like this regular grid. Here they're all next to one another, but we can also choose to spread them out. So if we do this with an interval of 1, you're going to see that it looks very regular. So originally that's what it looked like, and I thought that looked pretty artificial. So now we have the option to randomize. But the cool thing with roads is that manifests itself pretty much in how big our block's going to be. So if we wanted the blocks to be smaller, if we said this, like we see it kind of shrinks down, right? And we can shrink it down even more because the max here is still 10. So if we say like the max is 4, then we're really going to get these tiny little squares. You can also, like a neat little thing is you can modify building heights. Like, so if you want to kind of get a bit more of, I don't know, a Dubai kind of city, with these tall buildings, a Burj Khalifa, that's something I think is pretty neat. And here we randomize it a little bit, and already we start to have something that looks much more natural. So the goal is for you to very quickly get something that looks good. So we have this. So now as to where the program's going in the future. So you'll notice that besides what I showed you in the beginning, I've mainly been doing roads and buildings independently. And so I did find a way to mesh them together, as I showed you in the beginning, uh, without without them crossing over one another. But still, um, the parameters have to be pretty specific to be able to do that. Like we would have to make our road bigger again, like make the interval, because the way it's generating right now, the buildings have no room to spread out. We see that our buildings kind of get stuck in this corner. I mean, we can, increase the probability, but it still gives us something pretty sloppy looking. Even here where we have a bunch, we see they only expand on one side and not the other. And so the next step for this program is to add a third type of element, and that's going to be called blocks. By that I mean actually street blocks. And so what the program will do is it'll look at where these path blocks are generated, and because of how our path algorithm works, when I explain where it generates intersections first and then fills in with road, that's going to make it pretty easy to create these blocks to fill in the holes. Um, and then on top of those blocks, we'll generate the buildings, and they'll only generate on there. It's going to improve the program in a bunch of ways. Um, Number one, we need to, a city should have sidewalks and things like that anyway. So it's a feature that had to be added in. And it just makes more sense because New York isn't built by saying, like, oh, let's start from the Empire State and then just generate buildings outwards from that. No, it's we create the streets, then we create blocks to fill in the spaces, the negative spaces created by those streets, and then we just fill those blocks up with as many buildings as possible. So that'll be a good side, and it's going to make our city feel more realistic. And afterwards, the next steps taken will include if the block is on the top of a building, maybe we can turn it into a patio, things like that. Put, tables and chairs on that patio. And so the idea with this project is that our city will just keep getting more and more fleshed out and feel more living and breathing. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll keep you posted very soon with later updates.